Hey folks, welcome back to this multi-part Let's Build Our Tech Business series. Today, we will be doing a small retrospective of our efforts to date. So, where do we stand from where we started? Well, this is me, a failure. I won't sugarcoat it. My endeavors to this date have not been very successful. That's not to say my journey has been a waste. I've managed to learn quite a bit, and overall, I think this better positions me for efforts in 2024 and 2025. During today's episode, I'll give you a high-level overview of some of the efforts during 21 to 23, some of the outcomes of those efforts, and we'll walk through a retrospective activity. So let's start with a little history. So I'm splitting our 10PAL6 timeline really into two parts, 2021 to 2023, aka to date activities, and a new journey in 2024. Let's begin by looking at 2021. So, in 2021, the general idea of 10PAL6 formed. This is when I really got the idea of wanting to start a tech-oriented business. I started my journey hosting my assets on Linode, which offers a traditional infrastructure as service style hosting for a fantastic price. I've used Linode before, and they have always been a great company to work with, both from their offerings as well as a customer support service perspective. I began to build my product here. Sometime about the, I'd say, tail end of quarter one and into quarter two, I made the decision to migrate to Google Cloud Platform. No major qualms against Linode really drove this decision. It was primarily me wanting to learn GCP, as well as make use of cloud credits and on-demand pricing. This migration took some time, as I'd never used GCP before. Once I got my general CI/CD pipeline and overarching infrastructure completed, it was a mix of ramping up on programming, as I've honestly had gotten a little bit rusty. I would say 2021 was primarily focused on building and general ramp up of knowledge to support the business concept. And probably the ancillary piece and major part of the year was running my 10PAL6 quest. 10PAL6 quest was essentially a Cicada 3301 inspired quest that I hosted, and that would form the foundations of my idea for a general challenge site out in the future. So as we moved into 2022, there were several core changes to my foundations. I continued my heavy work and ramp up on React, as well as getting my portal site and management portal up and running. The portal site's pretty much a glorified web URL shortener. Additionally, I started exploring NFTs. I'll talk a little bit about this after the walkthrough about what I've done, but TLDR, it was a complete and utter failure. Probably one of the biggest changes in 2023 was my decision to migrate to AWS. My primary driving factor here was I'd say just general annoyance with how GCP handled various aspects within their cloud platform, as well as just a general strong desire to shift and gain rapid knowledge in AWS, primarily due to some things in my main career. I started a new job near the end of 2022, so insert added stressors and chaotic hours here as well. So unfortunately, that did eat up a lot of my time. So in 2023, this was honestly a pretty rough year for me, both mentally, burnout, and a whole bunch of stuff just going on. I think throughout the year, I was just generally impacted by major stress and burnout, as well as having an absolutely terrible work-life balance. That said, I was able to achieve a few pieces that I'd consider a success in 2023. One major effort was restructuring, redesigning my infrastructure. I primarily leveraged Control Tower for this to help organize my AWS accounts. And I focused on general cost optimizations. I had a few deployments out there that were burning up costs monthly that I reworked to really reduce some of those costs. Ultimately, I want to run a lean expense budget as I'm building up this business, and it's being bootstrapped pretty much just by me. So I want to make sure to keep those costs in check as I'm building this out. Ancillary to my core website, I started building out various tooling, scripts, and software, primarily to help starting to build the brand of 10PAL6 and really get us known as kind of that creator out in the space of some of the communities I'm involved with. The other piece I really dove into was general hosting work. And what I did, I'm part of several online communities, and one in particular, I helped redesign their website and manage the hosting for that. I doubled down a little bit on YouTube and learning video editing. I started up a travel channel, ancillary to this main one. I don't expect this to be profitable at any point in the near term, but I do think it's beneficial for just the general know-how on video editing, and I think that'll be useful for this channel down the road. So here we are at 2024. This is honestly going to be a year of refocus. It's introduced this video series you're watching right now, and it's going to help me stay focused and keep the forward progress I've been wanting to do. And then, of course, there'll be the revamp of the actual websites and core assets. I'll be covering kind of the build out and brainstorm of the restructuring of those in a future video in this series. So let's look at some things that captures our activities through the years. My URL shortener was largely unsuccessful. I had only about a total of 20 users registered, and those 20 users created 100 shortened URLs. Looking at this, I think honestly my biggest issue here that was limiting the site's growth was general functionality, as well as no strong differentiators really to other URL shortening services out there. If you look at like Bitly and those, they almost provided the exact same thing. I do need to restructure this so it makes it a little bit more unique and positions it better. I do have some additional ideas on how to drive this effort towards profitability down the road, and I'll definitely be covering those in future videos as well. So looking at my quest that I released, I actually rate this as a pretty good success. I captured quite a bit of chatter within the communities that I'm active with, and I had a overall really good level of participation with folks. This is one of the ideas that I do want to move forward with in the future, as I think it can be kind of the foundations of a fun community-based game with, I don't know, maybe prizes based on skill or something like that. So, NFTs. What can I say? My premise was essentially buying out advertising space with NFTs, with the added bonus of the uniqueness that the NFT was minted by hand instead of by contract. Yeah, this was a complete and utter failure. And honestly probably a pretty dumb idea. I can chatter on endlessly here, but I'll leave it with why would anyone want to buy these without any completed functionality or honestly good utility? It was a stupid idea, even more so than most NFTs, but imagine I could potentially reshape this down the road to become something a little bit more viable if I put some effort here. Now, revenues. So hosting, I think it's a potential viable pathway for me. Can weave in with some of my other ideas that I'll share on the next video. Um, Hosting actually brought in my first bit of revenue, and as you can see, it's not much at all, but it's something. It's a starting point. It was really nice to see a form of output from my efforts. So let's continue on and just do a really quick retrospective activity to kind of close out this video. So let's talk about some of the things I liked. So I would say my migration to AWS, I really liked this decision. I've had an absolute blast migrating and restructuring the assets on some of AWS's services. And in all honesty, I've fallen in love with CDK for my infrastructure as code choice. So as I mentioned, I think the 10 House 6 quest was overall very successful. I had a lot of fun running this activity. It brought me great joy and pleasure to host that and share that experience with the community. I do think it can have a monetization route down the road as well. And overall, I'd say the journey itself. There's a lot I don't know. I'm by no means an expert in programming. I'm by no means an expert in running businesses, and I'm okay with this. I'm okay with failing as long as I'm learning on this journey. This journey building up 10 Pal 6 to profitability. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint for us. So let's talk about some of the learned. So React. I've always been a backend developer for most of my career, and ramping up on React and really deploying out my first functional application and managing all that front end code for the URL shortener portal. It was quite an effort, but such a good learning experience. I've been able to use React, the React knowledge in several of my real life job experiences. So I didn't stay with GCP, but I will say the knowledge I gained while doing that migration from Linode was pretty valuable. I ended up having a couple work projects that ended up being on GCP as well. So that knowledge was definitely beneficial for me in that aspect. So one thing I got better at over time was general cost optimization. I've structured my deployments in a fashion where I'm not burning a lot of costs, and overall, this keeps my efforts very sustainable. So what I lacked, honestly, time and energy. Life is hard. I'm working a full-time job with absolutely miserable and terrible hours, really bad work-life balance, and just juggling everything else going on in life with this effort. It's quite a drain. I know I'm moving slowly on the road to profitability, but in my eyes, as long as there's forward progress, I think I need to be able to be accepting and happy with this, and hopefully things will start accelerating a little bit too as I put some restructured focus on these efforts. So longed for, um, honestly, help. I think one of the hardest parts of this journey so far is I don't really have a good sounding board, both from an idea perspective as well as a technology problem perspective. It's really hard doing this solo. I think one of the things that would be beneficial is for me to really build up a good community around 10PAL6. And I do think this can help support forward momentum, and maybe even help potentially accelerate some of the development processes. So I think that's it for this video on kind of a retrospective of where we've got to. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be making a couple other videos in a few weeks, and I think probably the first one I'll be targeting is almost a design session of how we're going to plan out kind of the 10PAL6 ecosystem. And well, we'll be talking a little bit about tech architecture, some of the technologies we'll be baking into there, and then most likely, I think what we'll do is also target one specific asset within that portfolio to really build out. My hunch is potentially it's going to be a blogging hosting service, and I'll share that more info on that with y'all on the next video. And I guess that's a wrap. Hope y'all enjoyed, and be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. All right, cheers.